This is the DJI Mavic Air 3S. Hey, that worked out pretty well. First of all, I want to apologize that this video is in 60 FPS. I hate the way it looks. I know I'm sitting here in an uncanny valley looking like Tony and Chelsea Northrup. Not to mention I'm just burning through hard drive space on 2 different cameras going 4K 60. But it's necessary to show off how ridiculously smooth the video that comes out of this thing can be. First though, let's talk about some things I haven't seen other reviewers mention about this drone. Starting with the video file transfer experience with the built-in storage. That's the transfer speed of the files from the drone itself, from its internal storage to your computer. To transfer files on this drone, you don't have to have the drone turned on. In fact, you don't even have to have a battery in it. You can just plug a USB-C into its butt, preferably a Thunderbolt cable, and then when you plug that into your laptop, it's like it sees it as an SD card or a portable hard drive. And that alone is good enough for it to be notable. But in addition, the transfer speed is pretty fast compared to older drones. Here's an almost 4 GB file transfer in real time. It'll transfer videos at about 1 GB every 3 seconds. Also, there's 42 GB of built-in storage in here. I can't tell you how many times I was saved by my Mavic Air 2 because I had forgot to put a card in it, but it had internal storage. Although that thing only had like 8 GB, so you really only got a couple of minutes of 4K video. I got the Fly More combo with the RC2 controller, and this thing has 32 GB of storage also. It'll record its own screen, so I can get those behind-the-scenes shots of drone shots, which is kind of my bread and butter, honestly. Although I really should be using this thing to make money with real estate or something. The simplicity of having a dedicated controller is a lot more valuable than I initially thought. Even though hooking up my Mavic Air 2 to my phone was still just a single USB cable and then opening an app, it was annoying to get your phone mounted on the little springy thing on top of the controller. Sometimes I would have stolen my own USB-C cord for something else and not put it back, so it wasn't just instantly ready to go. This thing can go from like totally off with no battery to totally on. Actually, I've never tested how fast this goes. And your drone can be in the air in about 30 seconds. It's ready to fly. 3 out of 4 legs and my table's running away. Plus, with using my phone as the controller, I would occasionally get a phone call or a text or a notification, and it would inevitably happen at exactly the wrong time when I'm about to press some button for something. I would answer a call and it would go away from the app. Whatever. Dedicated controller, for me, is great. I really like it. You just need these 2 things and you're ready to go fly. I can just toss these in a bag. The next thing I want to talk about is this battery charging hub that comes with the Fly More combo. I watched a ton of videos before buying this thing and I never saw that this goes in both directions. I guess that's not revolutionary, but it's really useful. You can put up to 3 intelligent batteries in here. And not only do you have the option to make it so that 2 partially charged batteries will fill up a 3rd battery, pretty cool, but this USB-C port on the side can go in both directions. So for instance, you can use it to charge up your phone. Use it to charge up your phone. You can also use it to charge the flight controller. Or if you just happen to have this with you and you're not planning on going on a flight for that day, you have an almost 200 watt-hour battery bank. This thing can charge an iPhone 15 times. Also to do with charging, on my Air 2, even though there was a USB-C plug on the side of the drone, that was for data only. That plug could not send power into the drone battery. But while I was moving files over to make this video, I noticed the battery was blinking as if it was charging. So I put a little USB-C watt meter on there, and heck yeah, now you can charge the battery that's in the drone. So if you're looking for the fastest way to charge all 3 batteries, put 2 in the multi-charger and 1 in the drone with a couple of beefy power sources, like a laptop charger. Not all USB-C is created equal. And you can charge 2 batteries simultaneously. The charging bank otherwise just charges them 1 at a time. Moving on to the unfair comparison stage of this video, let's take a look at this 70mm equivalent lens. This shot is taken through the G Master 70-200 f2.8 at 70mm, and we're on a Sony a7 IV full-frame camera. And this shot is taken at 70mm through the DJI Air 3S. I will say, looking at the picture on my controller here, it is stupidly clear. Although the size of this sensor, even though it's great for a drone, plays a huge role in why there's less separation between me and the background. But this is not what a drone is for. This kind of shot is not what this drone is for. This 70mm lens was the reason I finally upgraded my Air 2 to the Air 3S. With it, you don't just gain the ability to zoom in, which by itself is great when you're spying on all the construction that's taking place in your new neighborhood like I do. You don't want to hover like 15 feet over everyone's heads to see what they're doing and make them all nervous. I can instead hover high enough that they don't even know I'm up there, and I can watch them put new sidewalks in or dig a pool or whatever they're doing. But more importantly, with this new lens, your ability to design your shot expands by a lot. When you use a long longer lens, you can zoom in the background behind your subject in a way that you can't do by simply getting closer to your subject. I can show you an example just using my phone, no fancy cameras or lenses at all. We're just gonna use the long lens on my phone versus the wide lens on my phone to show you what I'm talking about. A kind of extreme example with this wide angle lens, I'm standing, so recognize this little black piece of pole here. The woods behind me are like small, they're just regular little woods. But if I go to the telephoto, I'm not even gonna cut, I'm just gonna zoom in and back up. If I just go telephoto, stand in the same spot, I think I'm still in the shot, I can't actually see what it shows. But now, see, I'm standing in the same spot, the woods fill the frame. Same principle is true with the drone. That telephoto lens gives you a chance to zoom in your background. So now that this drone has a longer lens choice, you have another tool to shape your shot. Here's another example. Let's pretend I'm shooting a promo for this apartment complex, and they want a shot that shows these corner units, but also like lets you know that there's a pool and stuff back behind there. With the default lens, you can show that. You see both the pool and these cornered apartments. But when you back up the drone and switch to the longer lens, blam. Now you can see the pool takes up way more of the background, even though those apartments are pretty much the same size in the shot. Long lenses, zoom backgrounds. It's one of the things they do. It's the same story with like drone following shots. And these shots would be way better if you had someone flying the drone. I was just using the auto active track thing, moves all over the place. Again, in this wide shot, you can see the tops of the trees, and so it's not altogether all-encompassing like I'm walking through a forest. So you switch to the telephoto lens and then back up the drone until I'm the same size in the frame. Now, again, the background is zoomed way in and the trees fill the frame. I'm not saying this shot is automatically better, but I'm saying it's a valuable tool that you can have. So depending on what type of shot you're trying to get, now you have more shots that you can get. Like there's just some circumstances where it's super limited where your subject can be. We went and visited Stonehenge in England, and it's all roped off. There's a very specific distance you have to stay away from those ruins. So if you wanted the Stonehenge to appear really big in the background, but you want maybe your whole body of your subject, the only way to do that is to back up the camera, zoom it in. So the telephoto lens just changes what's possible for shaping the backgrounds of your shots. It'll also sort of like just square up a picture, because 24 millimeters isn't super wide, but it's wide enough that there's some rounding in the picture on the edges. I went and took a photo of my house with the default lens, which is a better sensor, and then flew up really high and took the same photo with the telephoto lens, and you can just see how the roof line is more squared off in the telephoto picture. I think it's better if you're using this drone for like maybe you're a pool company and you're planning out things, you want everything to be nice and in line and square. And I of course couldn't do a review of this thing without bullying it as well. I wanted to test out this fancy new LiDAR sensor. This black strip across the top of the front of the drone is this really cool new feature where there's a device in here that just shoots out an array of laser beams and then waits for those laser beams to bounce back. It'll measure the amount of time that took, create a point cloud, essentially allowing it to build a perfect 3D recreation of the world around it so that it can better avoid obstacles. At least that's the plan. This same technology is going to play a major role in self-driving cars in the future. Fun fact. So anyway, I made it follow me into this pine forest to see if it could just find its own path through there without hitting any trees. I had it set to active track from behind, and I didn't give it any particular path. I just walked through the woods. And not just forward, but backwards also. I just chased it right back out of those woods. And while this footage is a bit all over the place and not very smooth, I will say that it managed to avoid all the trees. And then again, going back to that zoom lens, getting shots with a lot of layers both in front of and behind your subject is a lot easier when the drone can be a lot further back and zoomed in. This shot would also be way smoother with a drone pilot, since this had to keep searching for me every time it would lose me behind the trees. But it's nice that the software does look around and look for you if it loses you. I did fly around a bit at night, because if you're using this drone to shoot real estate, some of the nicest looks of these more expensive houses are with their nice exterior lighting at night. But generally, drone cameras have been pretty bad bad at shooting at night. And this footage is not incredible or groundbreaking, but it's a lot nicer than my Air 2 could do. I thought I was gonna keep my DJI Air 2 drone forever. I didn't really see a reason why I would ever need to upgrade it. It was so smooth, it could fly really far. This extra camera got me. And the fact that this can fly, they say 20 kilometers under perfect circumstances. I'm never gonna fly this 20 kilometers away from where I'm sitting, but what I may do is accidentally pass around behind a building and it does not lose strength. I could sit in my living room and fly this around my neighborhood. It doesn't lose the picture. In fact, I do that because I'm watching construction workers, and that's a way that I pass the time because I'm a middle-aged man now, and this is the kind of thing you do. Goodbye.